Okay, the reading for this week is Furukawa Hideo's short story. It's actually an excerpt from a longer work, and the title, my translation into English was published in, when was it published? 2012, I think. The title is Now There Is Neither Purity Nor Defilement. The original title is Ima ya Jo mo nakereba fujou mo arimasen. It's part of a larger sort of collection of vignettes or stories, I think. I'll put the link to the full work in the description below, but it can be read as an independent vignette, I think. And I occasionally assign this work in my classes, but not so often because, frankly, I'm not sure really what to make of it. It's such a strange and even psychotic work. Furukawa Hideo, born in 1966 in Fukushima, and he often writes about Fukushima. His book about horses was written after the 2011 tragedy, the nuclear incident and the tsunami that killed thousands of people in that area, and he travels back to his hometown, wanders around. I'll put the link to that book as well in the description. He's highly regarded for the richness of his storytelling and his willingness to experiment. So his works are very, very experimental, often off-puttingly so. So a lot of people don't really like his he has a strong fan base, I would say, but those who are not so much into postmodernist experimentation are not so fond of his work. But I found this work, especially in my translation, quite interesting. And it's not so long, it's about 18-20 pages, I think, in my translation. So I'm going to read the entire translation so you can get a feel for what kind of stuff he writes. His best-known novel is the 2008 Holy Family, an epic work of alternate history set in northeastern Japan, again, where he's from. He has received the Mystery Writers of Japan Award, the Japan SF Grand Prize, and the Yukiyo Mishima Award. Okay, so I will start by reading the study guide for this work. Okay, so answer these questions as you read the work. Okay, Furukawa Hideo, Now There Is Neither Purity Nor Defilement. My translation, by the way, is published in volume 4 of the literary journal Monkey Business. Okay, I'll put the link to that as well. Alright, let's see how many questions we have here. 16 fairly straightforward questions that get you thinking about this weird, experimental, possibly psychotic text. Identify the setting of each scene. Okay, so it's not really clear where we are in all the episodes. Identify to the best of your ability the setting for each scene. Okay, it jumps around in time too, apparently. So that's question number 2. Make a narrative timeline of the whole story. Which might be impossible to do, but at least try to do it. Number 3, there are 2 narrators in the work, I think. There might just be one, it's kind of hard to tell, but it seems that there is at least the possibility that there are 2 narrators. Their narratives are woven together and often intersect. Describe these narrators in as much detail as you can. Is either of them a quote-unquote self-conscious narrator, which is a key term that you have talked about before, and is a key central phenomenon in Japanese modern literature and especially postmodern literature? If so, identify passages that suggest an awareness of their status as narrators. Okay, so by extension, is this work an example of metafiction? Metafiction is a work in which the characters of the narrator or the narrative itself is aware of its status as narrative. Number 4, go through each sentence and determine who is narrating. Are there any passages where it is not clear who the narrator is? Does the switch in narrators even ever occur in mid-sentence? Okay, this might be a possibility too, that there's right in the middle of a sentence we'll get a switch in narrators from narrator A to narrator B, for example. See if you can find any examples of that. Number 5, identify all fantastical and surrealistic elements of the work. Okay, so obviously from the first page it's clear that we're not in the realm of realism. We're not in the realm of naturalism. We're in some sort of weird, non-realistic world that nevertheless makes reference to the actual world, actual historical reality. The Vietnam War, I think, appears at one point. We're in Indochina. walking with soldiers at one point. At the end of the work, I think we jump back to Hiroshima shortly after, or right before possibly, the bombing of Hiroshima. So yes, identify all fantastical, surrealistic elements in the work, even if they're embedded within a larger sort of historical reality. Number 6, what are mezu? Okay, written with uma atama, is pronounced mezu, and gozu. Okay, so you're going to look these up. They appear in the work. These are sort of traditional sort of apparitions or supernatural figures that appear in Japanese folklore often. What is the connection between mezu number 9 and the girl? Discuss the function and significance of mezu and gozu in the work. Okay. Number 7, identify the humorous elements in the story. Is there a gap between style and subject? Okay, so do we have passages where the style is light and humorous, but the subject is heavy and profound or dark? Or vice versa, where the style is heavy and dark and profound, but the actual subject is frivolous. Okay, I think Furukawa likes to play with this sort of gap between style and subject, using inappropriate styles for subjects, or well, basically for he has a penchant for making the style and the subject not match up. Number 8, discuss the role of music in the work. Okay, so from the beginning we see a reference to Little Richard, I think, Wap Baba Do Baba Bop Bop Bop, or whatever the song is. Little Richard, of course, recently died a few weeks ago. He's referred to in the work, and music is central in this work, I think. Not sure exactly how it is, but you can answer that. What musical references are present? How does music relate to the main theme, or themes, whatever those might be? Why does the rooster taste of rock and roll? Right, so you have that early scene when he's talking about the rooster and rock and roll. What is this business with the Sony Walkman in the final section? And for those of you born after the Walkman phenomenon, Sony Walkmans were big when I was in elementary school in the mid-90s and so forth, and they appear in this work. Discuss the style. What literary rhetorical techniques are used? Okay, so make a list and describe these techniques and rhetorical styles, rhetorical methods, and give the instances where they appear. Right? There might be metaphor, there might be similes, there might be hyperbole, all kinds of things appear in the work. Okay. Number 10, discuss the visual imagery in the work. What is its overall effect? So make a list of the images and the motifs that appear and that create a certain mood or feeling or overall effect, and describe it. Number 11, what is the connection between the goat and the girl? Right? What is the significance of their duet? So you remember at one point, the yagi, the goat, and the girl sing a duet together, I think, and it has some sort of effect on the world in which they live. What is the effect? What is the significance of their weird little duet that they sing? Number 12, what is a basic question, number 12, what are the main themes of this work? Explain. It seems like he's trying to say something profound, but is kind of hesitant to do so, to say it straightforwardly, and he expresses his main theme, whatever that might be, in as indirect a way as possible. But explain what you think the main themes of the work are. Number 13, identify and discuss the Buddhist imagery references in the work. How do these relate to the themes of the work? Okay, so Buddhist imagery and allusions often appear in Furukawa's stories. This one is no exception. Find them and explain them. Number 14, discuss the significance of the following passage, particularly with reference to the theme of historical memory. Okay, so historical memory, I think, is one of the major themes in this work. You can you can describe what you think he is trying to say about historical memory in the question number 12, and the question I want you to respond to in this question number 14 is the following passage. The passage I want you to the diaries you are chewing on are the diaries I am now supplementing. It's just that for each diary your stomach decomposes, you race further down the resurrection. With each notebook that your stomach breaks down... Wait, resurrection? Isn't this a garbled metaphor? I don't even know. All I can say is that with each notebook your stomach digests. You roundly embody another aspect of the universe. I could probably replace roundly embody with master a posteriori. Make flesh and blood might work too. For this is why I write. Why I wrote then, why I'm writing now, with this little hand that is not even 10, with these little fingers in a big pen. Okay, and number 15, next question, discuss the significance of the following passage. In this episode, is this episode to be read as an allegory? And by extension, is the whole story, this whole section of the larger novel, this whole episode, is it to be read as an allegory? If so, what? An allegory is a very important literary term that I've already discussed in several videos, but an allegory is a story in which all of the major characters and all of the major events correspond to something else. So character A stands for X, for an idea or a concept or an abstract thing or whatever. Character B stands for Y, and so forth. And then the events in the story also correspond to certain abstract ideas or events from history or so forth. Is this work an allegory? And when you consider that question, consider it in particular in relation to this following passage. Sever it, you crooned. You instruct this goat in purgatory to sever the cycle now, for this is the main theme. You must stop devouring these telegrams, these tidings and these telegrams. The theme evolves. Here, chew on this instead, as a surrogate. What exactly did you hand over? Though a matter purely of song lyrics, what? The this that you sang was that. You know what? You know what, and it is now time for you to hand it over. Hand over that. You will extend your hand, and I shall hand over this. You are now fully mindful. The scene is now devoid of all mindlessness. You will presently offer him your hell diary as surrogate edible paper. I will offer him my hell diary as surrogate. That's right, I'm the one doing the thinking now. The so-called hell diary that belonged to number 9. You follow? Meza number 9 was me, you see, and the mother's was my affiliation. I was the hell warden who kept a diary of what happened. I hand over the diary, and then I have a note about the Gokusotsu, are wardens in hell who torture the damned and feed on their flesh. They are often depicted with the heads of beasts and semi-human bodies. Okay, number 16, the final question. Consider this motif of burning or incinerating memories. How does it relate to 1, the episode with the goat, 2, to the bombing at the end, the Hiroshima atomic bombing, and 3, to the Vietnam War dream, and 4, to Buddhist references and notions of transmigration or rinne, etc. Explain. Okay, so those are 16 questions, fairly straightforward. Some are fairly abstract, actually. To get you thinking about this weird story that I shall now read. Okay? Alright. Neither Purity Nor Defilement Now, by Furukawa Hideo, translated by Ryan Shaojin Morrison. I shall not burn memories. Let me state this resolution somewhat differently. I shall not dispose of memories via incineration. Yes, that's not a bad way to put it. A moment ago I awoke from a dream. Just a simple, ordinary dream. As I came to, I felt no rush of excitement as if I were about to be born, nor did I feel any compulsion to cry out like a newborn baby. I simply had a dream, the contents of which I will soon divulge. The matter was elsewhere. Something was the matter, you see. Certainly I would never burn my memories, but something certainly was burned, a sentient being, disposed of by incineration. In fact, the incineration was carried out by the will of the incinerated. Let me rephrase. Leaping into the fire, a living being burned itself to death. Had it been human, this would have been a case of self-immolation, but that wasn't the case. Consigning himself to the roaring flames, the rooster let out a cry. Yet this cry was neither a cock-a-doodle-doo nor a cocorico, but was rather a most extraordinary melody. And it is also a fact that I ate him, to stave off starvation. I swallowed the lightly roasted flesh of this self-martyring chicken, consumed his charred bones, gnawed on the soft parts, sucked on the marrow. I bit into his coxcomb, and seeing that it was edible, proceeded to devour it as well, a strange gelatin. I even put the heart of this rooster into my mouth and swallowed. Why? Because I revered that which he believed in. His flesh tasted of rock and roll. His bones throbbed in rhythm. His coxcomb emitted the pure thumping of a bass guitar. and his heart let out a shout. In my head, this came together as a single voice. A wap baba loopap, a lap bam boom. The voice echoing for eternity. The shouts of rock and roll. I had eaten rock and roll. Certain parts were left unburned. The talons of his 2 feet, for instance, and his gold leg ring, his demarcation ring, which I had given him. It was I who had fastened it to his ankle, as proof that he belonged to me. Now this golden ring sits in my pocket, tucked away, blackened stain and all. Tomorrow I will loop it through my cell phone strap, string it through. But what about today? Today I will relate to you the dream I had, the dream from which I just awoke, that simple, ordinary dream. I dreamed of soldiers unable to get a proper night's sleep. Soldiers is a rather imprecise way of putting it. Surely I am capable of simple classification, even if the scene is embedded in a dream. The soldiers were infantrymen of the U.S. Armed Forces, commonly referred to as GIs. I understand this much. I understood that these were GIs, understood that their affiliation was the U.S. Army, and understand that the earth on which they tread is that of the Indo-Chinese peninsula. Understand, I say in the present tense, for in a dream reenactment this strikes me as more appropriate than the past tense. Some of these men, these infantrymen, GIs, are white and some are black. The blacks are greater in number. The blacks understand this too, but are nonetheless pitted against the yellows. Wait, this nomenclature does not exist in the Japanese language. It is a ghost word, a word that never existed. So let me rephrase it. The yellow races. That is, people whose skin pigmentation is neither white nor black but falls under the broadly construed category of yellow. As for the affiliation of these adversarial yellow races, they belong to the land that belongs to no nation or national army in the sense that the GIs belong to the U.S. or the U.S. Army. The land of the Indo-Chinese peninsula. What sort of land is this? I am looking out at the scene because I can. Although the scene might be viewed in a full 360-degree arc, my dream perspective is limited to the 120 degrees before me. Yet I look on. A landscape pocked with unsightly craters, relics of bombing raids. As the soldiers trudge through this landscape, I come to realize that all I am seeing, experiencing, and apprehending is the totality of what the soldiers are seeing, experiencing, and apprehending. Or perhaps the totality of what they are understanding. The region is rife with landmines. Beyond, the air is thick with Agent Orange. But beyond what? I assume beyond right here. But just then my field of vision switches via a technique that is like a strange cross between a zoom and a jump cut. In short, a technique that is cinematic but not of the cinema, and my perspective suddenly shifts to the here that is before me, to the exquisite zone of paddy fields. I can hear myself breathing, exhaling in short, wheezy pants. I am marching along the front line. My eyes apprehend the water buffaloes. Led by peasants, these even-toed, ungulate livestock roam to and fro along the stretch of paddies before me, plowing the fields until they are run through. Run through with bullets. Then suddenly there is a change in key. The hue of the front line modulates without any zoom or jump cut, and my buddies, my fellow black and white U.S. Army combatants, start to topple over dead. Two types of bullets whiz through my field of vision. One type I know to be the red bullets of some communist bloc nation. Yet there are no reds here, but only the whites and the blacks and the invisible yellows as the peasants are slowly drawn into the fight, and the water buffaloes that let out their infinitely plaintive roar as they receive the stray bullets are black. And suddenly, just above their heads, the relief helicopter enters the scene as sound, a roar produced by the revolving rotors, then the hail of machine gun fire from a clear blue sky, and I realize that all is about to burst, that the sound is about to burst into pieces. But what about the view? An exquisite stretch of paddy fields. The scene seems magnified, inflated, as though through a zoom lens. The lush green presses in. I take one last look at the beautiful scene, then I defect. Leaving the perspective of these front-line infantrymen, fated to vanish into the earth's dew, I enter into a kind of panoptic view, through a veritable flying leap. Nam, I think. This is Nam, Vietnam. Potential enemy territory, which is why the GIs can't get a proper night's sleep. And because they can't get a proper night's sleep, they are deprived too of their dreams. And this battlefield, this Nam, is awash in the myriad perspectives of these sleep-deprived GIs marching forever onward. The land abounds with a myriad of here's. I enter. This exquisite stretch of paddy fields, the exquisiteness of Vietnam, this Nam, tragic orifice of history, Nam, like a surrogate dream experienced in real time, that is, in this ordinary waking world of neither REM sleep nor non-REM sleep, by those deprived of their REM dreams. And with this thought my flying leap comes to an end. Through an abrupt cutout my panoptic view terminates, I exit the dream, the present tense switches to far more appropriate past tense, and the dream I am having becomes the dream I had. The dream I promised to divulge. From this dream I awoke. Nam, why Nam? I too possess an intuition, and this intuition responds immediately, because Nam. I see. One does well to elicit this word, Nam, from the Japanese lexicon, like an idiomatic phrase, an incantation. The word is usually chanted, as in the phrase Namu Amida Butsu, Hail Amida Buddha. The word Nam is originally a transcription from Sanskrit. The word Nam, spoken by the GIs, is of course American slang. The country name Vietnam is of course a Vietnamese word. And before the Sanskrit-derived Japanese word Namu of Namu Amida Butsu existed, there were the canonical texts of Buddhism in traditional Chinese, the Indian subcontinent, the North American continent, the Japanese archipelago, and the Asian side of the Eurasian continent, all skewered by this word over the course of several thousand years. 3 words strung together in the series of sounds, Namu Amida Butsu. Amida is written with 3 ideographs, A, Mi, Da. You don't say. Is this then what prompted my dream? Was my dream the last dying dream of those poor sleep-deprived GIs? Or was it because Vietnam was compiling its own rock and roll soundtrack for the American War? I happen to know that it is an historical fact that the Vietnam War was really the American War. I happen to possess an awareness that this was written in Hideo Furukawa's 2005 rock and roll septology. Possess an awareness? The memory has not been incinerated. It links back to something. But there are interruptions, discontinuities, or rather the link is comprised mostly of interruptions and discontinuities, but that is okay with me. For the flavor of rock and roll lingers in my mouth, and because of this I understand what I am capable of. I shall confront phenomena only. Hup, hup, the girl muses. Steadfast, she reiterates her intention to confront phenomena only. This ejaculation, hup, bespeaks a desire to be rephrased as let's rock, while at the same time carrying the potential to be replaced with let's roll. She knew that the English verb to roll also contained the meanings to tumble and to transmigrate. But it did not occur to her that this is English, and so she did not verbalize it as such. That is to say, she did not say to herself, this is English. I am English. Not true. You're a liar. Naturally the girl understood this, for she is Japanese, despite her excessive tan. Her skin pigmentation was the very texture of summer, and moreover she was cleanly aware that the interjection hup must perforce encompass the meanings to roll and to transmigrate. Hup, let's go, let's roll, let's transmigrate. It had the feeling of a sequence, which is why the mystic hup. From this ejaculation she commenced her undertaking, which began with the smallest of trifles. Her first order of business was to confirm. I must confirm who it is I am. Having irrevocably passed through the imaginary birth canal long ago, she could not help but acknowledge her own ontological reality. This morning I took a hard look at myself and saw that I too was simply another phenomenon. Hup, 2, 3, 4. Who am I then? I am the girl who is not yet 10, who wears her hair in long braids. I am the girl. This flurry of words recognizes and defines her, strikes her silhouette, fortifies her. Just what is this girl? A girl is a paltry thing. But summer was salvaged. That summer of that Tokyo recuperated. The girl did not grow any older. So long as she swore never to age another year, all remained on the verge of happening, forever on the brink of double digits, of turning 10, eternally on the eve of everything, as it were. Or as she rephrased it, everything is perpetually at the stage of becoming. She felt this a most appropriate paraphrase. What season did it feel like then, once summer was lost? Like spring? Winter? The girl remembered winter as something embedded within her, or rather more like a touch so distinct it could issue orders. She could touch winter with her hand. She touches it now too, but only faintly. Oh, winter! And from a global perspective, Tokyo summers always correspond to summers in the northern hemisphere and to winters in the southern hemisphere, say in Argentina or Brazil or Australia. It made little difference to her whether it felt like winter or spring or fall, for during this interval a sanctuary was erected and the refugees in certain districts were successfully militarized, and ultimately summer was restored. That summer in that Tokyo, what remained to be restored now was Tokyo itself. The restoration of Tokyo. This will be your task. Let me refer to you as you. For you are the subject who both rolls of her own accord and causes Tokyo to roll by commanding roll and let it roll, which is why you may be regarded as the subject who will initiate the apocalypse. Hence I shall refer to you as you. Receive with pleasure my manner of writing. But still you refute me, insisting that the one who will bring Tokyo, this summer's Tokyo, and the near myriad Tokyos of all other seasons, to the brink of destruction cannot be you. I'm just not that type of girl, you say. From your standpoint, this is a reasonable refutation. Reasonable indeed, which is precisely why you are urging the refugees to militarize, and why you are secretly initiating what can only be called the phase of armed sound struggle, or at least trying to initiate this phase in hope of joining the hostilities, of taking the enemy by storm. Listen, girl, mount your invasion of hell, the breeding ground of demons. But the weapon you carry is neither sparrow-slaying blade, that all-powerful utensil, the throwable steak knife, nor rifle, nor machine gun. No, your only missiles are those memories and memory genes that went unburned. In a word, your myriad hereditary powers. Powers that now reveal themselves. This morning you went underground, through a fissure in the road, a road that had totally caved in. This was the submerged zone, but it was also the front line. There was a barricade, The barricade was built by your side. Its base was the wreckage of the taxi squadron whose yellow hulks were stacked in a massive pile. Through this barricade, you and your men, the we you refer to yourselves as, ventured underground. We shall avail ourselves of the underground treks. To compete with this cunning lot, the same degree of cunning is required of us. You wore a dress. The pattern on the dress was a sunflower. First you used the rope ladder. The escape route led you further down. The knowledge to navigate the system of underground roads and tracks was yours, but the knowledge that guided your several dozen followers was not yours. That had to be derived from a memory that you did not incinerate, that was not incinerated, from a memory embedded inside you like an emblem of memory. That memory is a number, the nifty number 9. I was number 9. You immediately disavow this thought. No, it wasn't me who was number 9. It was she, the horse-headed meso-demon, one of the mothers. This way, right? With ease you proceeded to distill knowledge from memory. Effortlessly you deduced information about your location and bearing. Only after this did you use your own knowledge. You knew Tokyo like the back of your hand, and made use of this knowledge. You also knew that Tokyo once had a subway system, and that this system had long since been abandoned, and so you used this knowledge to your advantage as well. Be careful up along the tracks. I've received reports of certain areas being submerged in water. It would be lunatic to try to swim through these spots, so you'd better curb your adventurous spirits. Fish inhabit these areas. Samples have been caught. The fish have metamorphosed psychologically. Their gills perform extreme functions, clearly taking in more than just oxygen. Several species have human ears. Tumbling into the deepest depths of the submerged zones are rail cars, which train fanatics in the sanctuary have identified through photographic evidence as the old model 2000 Heian subway cars. And in those depths the oysters flourish, though they cannot be seen. As for the flashlights, listen up now. Try not to swing them about, lest they become luring lamps, beckoning the will-o'-the-wisps. According to the experts, approximately 80% of all will-o'-the-wisps are comprised of deep-seated grudges that have undergone single-cell fissure. This sort of science speak strikes us as quite ludicrous, dumb even. Nonetheless, the advice itself is instructive, so, are you listening? Heed my words now. For that which is dangerous is exceedingly dangerous, with a purity factor of 100%. The wind sounds protractedly, sounds like a howl. Sadly, the sunflower pattern on your dress did not glow in this underground darkness. By noon you had surfaced. There was a toll gate. You looked around. Ah, this must be the superhighway. The toll gates are unattended. Hell has not yet undergone motorization. There's the overhead railway. And there's the container depot. And over there, the superfluid concrete factory. When you look down, you can see the landfill thermoelectric power plant. This, too, is completely useless in hell. It seems we've exited the place we were meant to exit. We also seem to have successfully exercised our cunning, for we've now emerged into our intended destination. Look, there's the Immigration Bureau, abstract in concrete, which means we're already in the port of Tokyo. This highway is a bridge. Hup, 2, 3, 4. Let us proceed. Naturally, your advance was thwarted. Or rather, a will to thwart your advance had manifested itself. This will ran rampant. On the bridge that is within hell's borders, bridge surrounded by a ring of fire, by innumerable rings of fire. It's a psychological blaze, you said. Your smooth, not yet 10-year-old face was lit up by the flames. The pattern on your dress now glowed in rich profusion. Black plumes of soot shot upward. billowing into the air in all directions. The shoulder fastener on your dress creaked. Making an arc with your right arm, you gently reached back as if to throw a knife in slow motion. As much as a tenth of the flames acquiesced to this movement, to the sweep of your right arm. The blazing fires yielded. Stuff of hell, attributable to hell alone, the blazing fires yielded to your movements. My supernormal powers, you stated bluntly. You then summoned your hereditary powers, including those preserved through phylogenetic memory. To whom did these memories belong? To number 9, you answered promptly. It wasn't me, but she who was number 9. So these memories belonged to her. A meze. She was endowed with all the powers bestowed upon mezes. And naturally, her demonic powers were supernatural in nature. Do you doubt that I too can exert those powers? So you did, prompting the fastener of your dress to snap like a whip. Marshalling 20, even 30% of the now unchecked rings of fire, you made your way toward the bridge that had apparently been stretched across the port of Tokyo. The hell flames split in rapid succession. You adroitly seized the smoke and, rendering it into a brush, proceeded to write some quasi-Sanskrit letters, what looked like a D and an M. The former produced the sound hang, the latter the sound ni. Rocket fire whizzed through the air. This was but one manifestation of your sundry supernormal powers. Your men, those whom you refer to by the plural you, were bequeathed 89 caliber bazookas from the firmament. Bequeathed? From the firmament? No, silly, from inside the blaze. It was a simple transference of materials, but it produced in a manner most befitting hell. It proceeded in a manner most befitting hell. You follow? You rectified all misunderstandings in the vicinity. Hell's legions squared off against your forces twice on this bridge, and twice were routed. At dusk you arrived at the mansion and promptly confiscated it, yet in your mind you had simply returned home. The owner of the mansion had the body of a meze, belonged to one of Hell's more respectable castes, and was known by a single-digit figure, the number 9. Quickly you led your subordinates across the mansion's interior. The den was where you remembered it. You peeped in to find the writing desk as you remembered it, but you did not approach, for now at least. You led your men into the garden. From hither you led them thither. Naturally you were the first to open the door to the barn. Here's the goat. There was the goat, cloven hoofed and 7 meters tall at the withers. He even looked a bit hell-conscious. The goat reigns over the barn. The proof of his kingliness lies in his beard. Thick and grizzled, it dangles 2 meters before his jaw. 2 meters of dangling beard. When he gives his head a light shake, his beard sways with a rustle, loosing a small gale inside the barn. Occasionally the tip of his beard inadvertently tills the ground, leaving a trail as would a comb. King rather than queen, the goat is male, betesticled. He has horns that are thick as brambles, so anomalous that their precise number cannot be determined. Just then he begins to bleat, "Bah!" The walls of the barn vibrate with each wail. This wailing might be translated as an expression of nostalgia or a welcome home. Might the goat be howling welcome home to his master? His body is white all over. His peculiar odor carries a trace of sulfur. Needless to say, the scent of hell. His hooves can easily trample to death any small canine such as a Pomeranian or a Maltese, maybe even a seal. Stamp and crush underfoot all those pinnipied marine animals on the seashore. But this is no seashore, so this explanation is inappropriate. Beside the goat is his wooden feed bucket containing potassium salt mined from a mineral spring. He licks the potassium salt. Perhaps chloride nitrate is mixed with it too, for the thickness of the luster changes each time its contents are altered, by which I mean each time his tongue alters the contents. But unlike the eyes of a cat, the goat's eyes contract horizontally and then widen. He laughs intermittently. Curling his upper lip, he grins. This is no more than a simple flamen response, an action to attract the attention of a female. In short, this male goat is rutting, as males are wont to do. It is only natural that he, a post-pubescent male, and moreover king of the barn, should grow sexually aroused from time to time. And this not yet 10-year-old Japanese girl is indeed a paltry thing before this enormous beast. Looking up at him, she keenly feels their difference in size. Like a chicken looking up at a human or other big animal, or an egg-laying white leghorn regarding a child from ground level. This girl, who can only feel an overwhelming sense of déjà vu at this conceit, is of course you. You then proceed to address the goat. Hey there, big guy. If you happen to receive a telegram, try not to eat it, okay? You then break out in song. You, silly thing, silly big thing, your preposterous dimensions notwithstanding, you are just a goat, and hence cannot escape your goat nature. Oh boy, by dimensions I mean size, silly. Aw shucks. By nature I mean that propensity of yours. For you are the one known to the world as Mr. White Goat. Of the nursery rhyme, The Goat's Mail. And so the next time you receive from a so-called Mr. Black Goat, wait, let me revise this. Next time you receive a telegram from a certain black goat, you will promptly nibble it to bits. The question then is, how come? Some may say, because it's your nature. And, after all, old-fashioned epistles are tasty, making for delectable paper. Indeed, they would be right. That's what makes them epistles. Oh, you big lug, you. What do you think of this nursery rhyme? Of this song that exposed your secret on a national scale? Of this ineluctable propensity of yours? Of this most embarrassing tendency of yours? Honestly, what do you think? As member of the goat family, will your answer be, for us this is a song of prophecy. For in an era before male was crowned with the letter E, it was quite hazardous to correspond via mail. Hazardous, or as they say in English, dangerous. You see, whenever we goats receive a random telegram, we enter into what one might call a never-ending loop. Oh no, the so-called Mr. White Goat and the so-called Mr. Black Goat, in a never-ending loop of dispatching and devouring and dispatching and devouring these dangerous old-fashioned epistles? No, you see what I'm trying to say. You understand me, don't you? Writing like this will never end. The repetition is infinite. No, but then again, all compounded phenomena are impermanent. Like, what is to be done? Aye, the burning question. Is there no reprieve from this barren fate? Might we, for instance, will you at least hear my words? Listen to my admonition? This was the song you sang, be amazed. Its rich lyrics were fraught with an incipient quasi-rhyme distinct from rhyme per se, while its inordinate randomness produced a confused and derailed rhythm. Yet this alone wasn't enough to make it a song. As it stood, it was not yet worthy of the name music. It lacked one critical element, accompaniment, or an interlude, I should say. Just then the goat frequently wept. King of the barn, he frequently howled and wailed. His howl was a rhythmical, rallying cry. The interlude proceeded as follows. First you called to the goat, "Hey, big boy." The 7-meter-tall beast responded with a ba. Noting a certain stress in your voice, the goat responded almost reflexively with a downbeat ba, and then a bewildered howl of ba. When you called, "Oh, silly thing," the goat replied with a "Yes, master," and when you cried, "Oh, you big lug you," the goat responded, "Yes, how can I help you?" And when you sang to him, "Oh, silly big thing," the goat answered in flowing cadences with, "You talking to me?" Then at some point, be amazed, a melody was affixed to your voice. Yes, a melody. It was now a song. Music had come into being. Softly, almost imperceptibly, you and the giant goat together in concert, inside the barn that is Hell's barracks, but you did not grasp what had come into being. Although you were unmindful or incognizant of the fact, the song was an omen. The world was trembling. What name would you have attached to it had you recognized it as a song? What title would you have given it? The song had no purpose. To wit, it was simply called The Goat and Me. A song free of contrivance. But this purported ditty had a theme. Its lyrics were intended to lead you and the goat by moral example, lead you to righteousness. And incidentally, this you who sang to the goat, addressing him in the second person, are in my narrative a second person, which is to say that this second person pronoun, that is you, has brought into being a second person, but let's leave it at that for now. Besides, styles of writing may change at any moment, may suddenly metamorphose. What matters now is this nursery rhyme, this song that depicts in a never-ending loop the epistolary correspondence between a certain Mr. White Goat and a certain Mr. Black Goat, who in Japan are lauded as national heroes and whose song you sang in a manner that might be regarded as nationalistic. "Sever it," you crooned. You instruct this goat in purgatory to sever the cycle now. For this is the main theme. You must stop devouring these telegrams, these tidings and these telegrams. The theme evolves. Here, chew on this instead, as a surrogate. What exactly did you hand over? Though a matter purely of song lyrics, what? The this that you sang was that. You know what. And now it's time for you to hand it over. Hand over that. You will extend your hand and I shall hand over this. You are now fully mindful. The scene is now devoid of all mindlessness. You will presently offer him your hell diary as surrogate edible paper. I will offer him my hell diary as surrogate. That's right. I'm the one doing the thinking now. The so-called hell diary that belonged to number 9. You follow? Meze number 9 was me, you see, and the mother's was my affiliation. I was the flesh-feeding semi-human hell warden who kept a diary of what happened. I hand over the diary. Hup! All diaries are sufficient for consumption. More precisely, all diaries exist in order to be consumed. Hup! Let us commence the feeding. Perhaps by feeding the goat my diary, I am breaking him in. To think, me, a mere girl not even 10 years old, trying to tame this gigantic boat, how incongruous. Can you picture it? Do you think it's implausible? Implausible or imprudent or something? Actually, it's neither implausible nor imprudent, and I can prove this claim. You see, I possess the memory genes and hereditary powers of Meze number 9, hence my memories are her memories. I can reach into her chest at any moment and say laughingly, "It's only supernormal powers, silly." Hop, 2, 3, 4, notebooks. Any used notebook is sufficient for disposing of defiled beings. Let me rephrase that slightly. Any notebook is sufficient for disposing of any sentient being, including the goats ruled by the Meze. For soon there will be neither purity nor defilement. This statement transcends paraphrasing. Transcends paraphrasing. I don't mind. I have already broken in the goat, you see. He bleats as he takes the diary in his mouth. He masticates the diary. He seems to recognize me as his former master. You know who I am, don't you? You've known all along, huh? From the moment we were reunited. Can you recognize metempsychosis, the transmigration of souls? But you need not understand this on a spiritual level. Intellectual cognition may also be possible. Besides, I, or rather we, have already confiscated the mansion. This is my reading room now. The writing desk too belongs to me. You know how it is. In short, this is how it is. The diaries you are chewing on are the diaries I am now supplementing. For each diary that decomposes in your stomach, you race further down toward the resurrection. With each notebook that your stomach breaks down, wait, resurrection? Isn't this a garbled metaphor? I don't even know. All I can say is that with each notebook your stomach digests, you roundly embody another aspect of the universe. I could probably replace roundly embody with master a posteriori. Make flesh and blood might work too. For this is why I write. Why I wrote then. Why I am writing now. With this little hand that is not even 10, with these little fingers and a big pen. Yet there was something not to my liking. Calendars, notations of days, months, years, keeping track of what day and what month of what year it was in Hell era. What nonsense is this? So I cut things off on Hell Day 7. I ripped out the pages for that day, refused to hand them over to the goat. Say, I have something important to say. There are pages in this Hell diary. There is a first page and a last page. The diary has an ending. It most definitely has an ending. In light of this fact, I say, utter, or rather declare, any diary that chronicles these days in Hell will perforce come to an end. Take note of this. It is an omen. I push on. I lunge ahead, ploddingly. One should not do what is not to one's liking, and so I replace the calendar. So long, Stygian calendar. Hello, Gregorian calendar. I was unable to write an entry for Hell Day 8. For that day, I wrote in a different date. Some day in July 2000. For some reason, on that day I had begun preparing for the countdown to the end of the 20th century, when suddenly a thought occurred to me. On what day did the 20th century begin? January 1st, 1901. Okay, then on what day did the 20th century come to an end? December 31st, 2000. So the 20th century is over, right? Wrong. July 28th. I slipped the golden ring through the cell phone strap. That was yesterday. The gold ring that had been the rooster's ID anklet. I once protected this anklet. Now this anklet protects my cell phone. A license for survival. A pledge. July 29th. Suddenly the machines catch fire. We alter our strategy. I am the leader, the one issuing directions. I am Lieutenant Little Girl. July 30th. Write something, damn it. July 31st. The goat is grazing peacefully. Wait, aren't goats supposed to be ruminant animals? I spoke unto the goat. You shall race to the resurrection. I reiterated this with great obduracy. For repetition is incantatory, you see, like magic or a curse. The repetition of words spoken or written. Come on, damn it. Write, I say. I write. Mark my stick-to-itiveness. The resolution of the picture continues to improve apace. Any moment now we will start intercepting communications. Any moment now we will ready the machines for interceptions. Appurtenances of Mezu number 9. The machines will not be incinerated. August 1st. I set up communications. We begin intercepting. At 1600 hell hour, we bugged the brothers' meeting about the bugging of the mother's lines. We have no hankering for the latest news from Russia. Did someone say Russia? At 1930 hell hour, we succeed in sending out a dispatch. We establish a hotline with the sanctuary. By the hotline was only an audio circuit. The picture was missing. Inadequate. August 2nd. The picture betrays resentments. It should start coming in clear any minute now. At 8:20 hell hour, a panoramic vista opens up. There is a lake. Really? A lake? The government helicopter plummets. Was it shot down? A stray chopper. Out of formation. Emergency landing at 1000. Confirmed. The passengers are alive. I refer to them as the chopper men. The reason seems obvious. Old acquaintances? The relationship between the sanctuary and the government is touch and go. May we partake in the government? I start to fret. At 1500 hell hour, I refer to them once again as the chopper men. See? I'm not fretting. We proceed with a more detailed inspection of the picture. An accident is underway in the brother zone. Brothers-zone. While listening in on the mother's circuit, we manage to wiretap the Gozu's statements pertaining to the accident. I can see clearly now that the chopper men, that's right, chopper men, are projecting the faces of the Orthodox European bovine descended Gozu onto their spherical full-face helmets, which is to say they are projecting their bovine faces onto the Gozu's black spherical helmets that have been furnished with a light-proof function. I felt this scene to be truly astonishing, and so we all were astonished en masse. Then, in threatening tones, the Gozu addressed the chopper men. Hell has its own street map. This here is Hell First Street, for instance, revealed in the shape of a swollen pool of blood. After calculating the precise location of the brothers' zone, we hurried together toward it. A pool of blood. The phrase does not begin to convey the full reality. We engaged the enemy. We understood. We secured several provisional prisoners of war and were thus able to obtain information. This is definitely not a pool. It is a lake, and this lake has a name. The lake has already been topographically designated. Lake Beethoven, they call it. Its dimensions are approximately that of Tokyo's Ota ward. Never have I seen a lake so full of blood, nor has any of us, nor anyone in all of Japan's history. An inordinate amount of human blood. A lake this, such a lake full of... I was at loss for words. Yet I managed to engage the enemy troops. I, Lieutenant Little Girl, continued issuing orders and assigning missions. And this, of course, had nothing to do with that doubly misunderstood war slogan taken from the Kojiki, smite till death. And in this lake of blood, dogs are swimming. Hell's watchdogs, hound dogs. The whole lot of them can swim, you see. Even white dogs now red with blood. The Gozu came by boat. boat of roaring fire, and then a raft. We seized the raft. 1 raft, 3 rafts, 4 rafts, dead children floating. So many poor innocent babes, 2-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 1-year-olds. I wept. How come they dead? How come they, dead, are afloat in the water? In this warm water brimming with the blood of men, women and children. And then I heard from the depths of the water music. A capsule could be seen. A large capsule? You rescued the chopper men. Actually, you and your men together saved them. For you, Lieutenant, little girl, Lady Commandant, were rich in manpower, surrounded as you were by your throng of subordinates. And it was not only life-saving missions that you embarked upon, you also made sure to attend to the flying machine that had made an emergency landing. The hovercraft capable of flying at low altitude. A machine not yet customized for use in hell. Stray chopper. You checked its various meters and gauges. You ordered the chopper men to check those measuring instruments, to adjust them, to confirm the number of engine revolutions. As they performed those tasks, you served as a living bulwark, wielding your supernormal powers, converting the flames into friendly fire. The flames were a psychological blaze, you had once explained. Then, sometime on August 2nd, you completed the first stage of redeployment, the first step of redeployment. As you returned to your mansion, the giant goat hung from the chopper by a rope. The night-long operation of peeling the roof from the barn had been completed, and the huge beast, still alive, dangled in the firmament. August 3. Gazing up at the 7-meter goat hovering approximately 10 meters overhead, you addressed him. Hey there, buddy. How you feeling? They're going to take you away now. Transport you out of here, out of this hell, and into the metropole. Into the city center that has not yet been cast into this hellfire. Into our sanctuary. You continue. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to keep you as a pet. In that old elementary schoolyard that Tokyo Tower overlooks. If you'd like, we can build our own private hut there, just for you. The second stage of redeployment was now complete. The voyage took us as far as the schoolyard. The goat was dangling in the azure sky, albeit at a lower height. Some of us were above the earth's surface, some below, but all were safe. We had made it. This all took place on August 3rd and was recorded in your diary. The process unfolded in 3 phases. First, you ordered your men, those you refer to as we, to build a hut for the goat. Second, the goat was still dangling in the azure sky, albeit at a lower height. Some of us were above the earth's surface, some below, but all were safe. We had made it. This all took place on August 3rd and was recorded in your diary. The process unfolded in 3 phases. First, you ordered your men, those you refer to as we, to build a hut for the goat. Second, upon entering negotiations with the rescued chopper men, and thus effectively with the government as well, you ordered giant, customized headphones for the goat. An illustrious light electronic appliances manufacturer pledged to cooperate, and so the headphones bore the Sunny logo, a Walkman in other words, you stated proudly. And third, you remembered to request a radio-friendly radio frequency tuning function for the Walkman. You also made sure that the tuning could be done via brainwaves, and that every mini FM station established, however precariously, throughout the sanctuary could tune in. And because Japan was number 1, the request went through. Progress was well nigh spontaneous. Just as Japan as number 1. The brainwaves were those of the goat. First day of tuning, August 4th. Second day of tuning, August 5th. Third day of tuning, August. I cannot write down this date. Our plan was eventually to elicit sound directly from the goat. No doubt it would have been the sound of rock and roll, but such hypothetical musings are now unnecessary. We listened to the rock and roll through the goat's Sony headphones, through the line of his custom-made Walkman. It was Chuck Berry's 1956 tune, Roll Over Beethoven, which the Beatles would cover 7 years later. That sounds about right, we were thinking. I was thinking. You see, Beethoven Lake had been rolled over, turned in upon itself. Or rather, we had desired that it be turned in upon itself. The sorrow and the sin. We thought the power of rock and roll might serve as a check against these. We said we would try to atone. We made a wish. We arranged to send the song from the goat's Walkman directly into an amplifier and then blast it throughout the sanctuary. Blast it into the depths of hell, all the way to the pits of purgatory. But just then there was an explosion. I can see it clearly. Might this be a new type of bomb? I make a phone call. Hastily, I take out my silver-grey metallic cell phone, dial, and say, "You who must now be not a day over 27. Just then the gold ring dangling from the strap is swaying, and I, irradiated, perish.